So I'd like to welcome Dozie Okafor, MD, CEO, PhD Nigeria, and President, Media Independent Practitioners Association of Nigeria, and Brenda Nwagwu, CEO, QVT Media Limited, and also the Vice President of the Media Independent Practitioners Association of Nigeria. So the association is heavily represented here. Thank you, Dozie. Also, thank you so much.
Thank you, Nandi. An absolute pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us do this. Brenda is also on the call, and I know we don't have quite a lot of time. So what we've decided to do is Brenda is going to go first. She's going to walk us through a bit of the technicalities on what is really required. And then I'm going to close it up with a few slides that touches on a few of the works that stood out in the channel category. And bring some of those points to light in terms of the things we looked out for and why we felt that they deserved the awards. And we'll try and keep it clean and quick and simple and hopefully straight to the point as well. So I'll let Brenda kick things off, and then I'll come in when she's done.
So good morning, everyone. It has been a pleasure working on the jury this past edition. And we just want to share, like Dozie has already said, and of course, Namdi, some tips and, just generally a guide so that we can do better this edition and maybe win more, okay? All right. So the formats, generally, what the requirements are about a 750 to 1,200 word narrative. And this should come with labeled charts, screenshots, creatives, and videos. Now, let me just make a comment about the format, because thus far, what we generally see is that every single category or subcategory within the channel category, what we found was that most people just copied and pasted. Meanwhile, every single subcategory had something else or something specifically that they were looking at, but everything was, it's like you go and figure out what you want to find, and that makes it a little bit more difficult for the jury, and that means they can easily miss whatever it is that you're trying to communicate. So it's very important that you note what is required for each subcategory, and I'm going to try and go through that here. Clear timeline. So you show a progression, from the start, your briefing, etc., key decisions, then how you went live, optimization, and results with comparisons. Yeah. Okay. Evidence first. Every claim has to be paired with some metrics, artifacts, or third-party verification. Of course, third-party verification is best, and for us, that's like gold standard for us to be able to say, yeah, this truly happened. Because sometimes we saw some campaigns and we were wondering, did this run in Lagos? Did I see this? I don't know, And then there was one that we thought, or generally some people like maybe thought that it probably didn't run so well, but it happened in Ghana, and one of our members was like, I actually saw this, and really, it took over the country. So it's necessary if you can give us, or it would be fantastic if you can give us third-party verification. Then you state your external factors, seasonality, pricing, PR, other things that are not necessarily within your control, but you demonstrate how you isolated media's role, okay? So that's generally what is required. Now for the subcategory, excellence in media execution, what is our question? How did flawless implementation make the campaign succeed? That should be the response you are giving, and it should be front and center, okay? So what should it include? What the brief was, what the KPIs were, and the target data, in specifics. The flighting and orchestration rules. Now, what was your activation craft and your trafficking specs? Exactly how did you plan to implement, And then what were the steps? What went first? What went second? How did they, how did they support each other? And then how did it come together? What was the synergy? What was the optimization loop with changes? So at what point or in different points, where is it that, you know, you were able to check, what am I doing? Is it going right? And if it's not, how can I tweak it? And how did you tweak it? Those are the things we'd love to see. And then what were the results tied to the execution choices? What is your evidence checklist for this? So we need trafficking screenshots, the change logs, especially when you had to tweak and optimize, Q&A checklists, anomaly flags, things you looked out for that once you saw, you knew that, oh, I need to do something about this to make sure my execution, you know, is flawless. What are the pacing charts? What are the resolution timelines? Okay, something went wrong, and within 24 hours or within an hour, within 30 minutes, we sorted it, and, you know, we're back on board. And in fact, better timeline of optimizations with impact. You know, also that feedback loop between the agency, the client, and everything, and how, you know, everybody just worked together to make it work. So for us, disqualifiers were when you're just talking about strategy without execution, artifacts or results with no traceable links. Okay. Excellence in media planning. The judge's question was, why did you choose this specific media mix? All right. Because media planning is about what you bring together. It might be one medium, it might be several media, it might be multimedia. What exactly? From brief to audience architecture, what was channel selection, what was the role of each channel, what was your measurement plan? How did you track it? Can we, you know, see the figures, you know, and how did it progress? And then what's the budgeting logic? So that you can show us how you save money, how you spend less for more, how you optimized, okay? All right. Now, for use of data, what is the question? How was your campaign driven or fundamentally improved by data? Now, data could come in whether before you start it, or it could be during the campaign where you now decided on, because of this, I'm going to optimize, you know, at this case. So there's first, second, or third party sources. What is the freshness? How current is that data? And show your permissions, you know, for the data. So how did you resolve? How did you identify things that required resolution? What are the feature engineering propensity or the models that were built for you to be able to take from data to information and now apply it to your campaign? So your decisions, where data entered the loop, where exactly did it come in? Was it in terms of targeting? Was it in terms of bidding and negotiation? Was it in the creative? This is not working. Let me pull back and do this, right? Put this other copy. Was it in budgeting? Okay. Now, casualty and lift. Tests or designs isolating your data-specific contribution to outcomes. Audience overlaps and charts are the evidence that require. And then change in KPIs due to intervention, holdout, or geo splits results. So those are the kind of evidence we require. Now, when we see a submission that says we use data and it doesn't show how it affected the decisions and how it changed decisions and what gain it delivered, then, you know, it's quite difficult to say this works. All right. Now, for use of integrated media, judge's question, how did channels work together to create a unified customer journey? So journey, stages, messages, channel roles, handles, clearly defined and documented. So how does it move from one stage to the other? Who gets involved or what gets involved, which media get involved or get introduced at different levels. Then inter-channel signals. So how they moved, how the channels moved and influence activation decisions, right? Then sequencing logic. Now, was it views, search, retargeting within what particular time? What was your protocol, more or less? Then your path to conversion analysis, assisted conversions, sequence tests, and clear results. It shows what came out of it. So key evidence, funnel drop-off charts. So maybe in the funnel where it moved from one stage to the other, and what made you decide to, you know, take it from here to there. It has past awareness or whatever. And then time lag distributions, the sequence, A/B outcomes. Of course, you would have tested one copy against the other and decided this is better and then moved to it. And so I can prove synergy, and then the sum of parts, how it came together, how the sum of parts was greater than each one. Okay, thank you. Now, use of insights. Now, what consumer insights sparked your entire media strategy? A lot of times this can also, this normally comes at the beginning, but sometimes you have those aha moments within the campaign. But for the insights, where did it come from? What was the research method, the sample? Because some people do dipstick researches, or you actually get it from something that already exists and you're able to just glean, another insight from it. And the find, put it front and center. What was the find that changed everything or changed the game? Now, what was the strategic leap from the insight, how it's translated into the comm strategy, the media implication, and show us the logic? The edge versus convention, what you did differently because of that insight. What gave you a competitive advantage, okay? Validation, so pilots or early signals that justify scaling the output. So sometimes you could try it in one city or in one particular situation, and then you decided to take it across the full campaign. Use of specific media, that's use of media. And then we're looking at masterful use of a particular medium. So how did you use this medium in a novel or masterful way? So channel context, why this medium fits the brief and the audience moment perfectly. Why that particular medium? Format craft, placements, creative specs, the designs, interaction designs, accessibility, and considerations. So in terms of the algorithm savvy, what was your negotiation like? What's the learning phase handling? What's the supply path? How did you optimize? What was innovative about your features, your integrations or hacks? And are these commonly or not commonly used by your competitors? And of course, results. Shows the before and the after. Yeah, what did you achieve? And how does this translate to business outcomes? So I'm done with the subcategories, but this is just a quick checklist. So you have a one-line test. It's your clear answer to the question for that subcategory. That's how you should start. Then you proof artifact. What can you use to back up that claim? All right. Decision timeline. What are the 3 key decisions with their measured impact on the outcomes? And how did you address those externalities like seasonality, promos, PR, etc.? How does all this now translate to the business outcome? Remember, evidence first. Every claim must be paired with a metric, artifact, or third-party verification. Thank you. Don't know if there are any questions, or maybe we should just move straight to Dozie and we can take the questions after. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Right. So I'm just going to get into it. Brenda has kind of taken us through a lot more of the technical aspects of it and what we need to look out for. What I want to focus a bit more on is the key elements that when we watch the case videos and when we read the write-ups and look at all the pieces of information that has been submitted, what are the quick things that the judges look for that kind of signals that this is really a winning work? So I've tried to put these things in very concise form, just 10 key things. One is a human truth at the very core of the idea. The second is the clarity of the idea. I mean, we need to read it once and get it. It needs to be strategic. So there has to be a time with the objective. Cultural relevance, boldness, and originality really gets people hyped up and interested in your work. Craft and execution, integration, and of course, the innovation in the creative piece. The purpose and impact of it. Results can't be overemphasized. It's a really key thing. And passion and collaboration. Let's dig a little bit deeper into each of these elements. And please, I do hope my screen is still up because I'm not seeing it. So as I talked about the human truth, a winning idea must always start with a deep human insight. So not just a product of a brief. We've got to talk about how this great work taps into an emotional behavior, how it makes people feel, that cultural truth that's really at the heart of the idea. The clarity of the idea, like I said, when you think of a Grand Prix idea, you need to be able to sum it up in one line. If it takes too long to explain, then it's probably not as sharp as it needs to be. I think that's one way to look at it. Then when it comes to strategy, behind every great creative idea, there has to be a very tight strategy. You must have defined the problem. There has to be a very clear audience, and there must be a precise role that the brand is playing at the very heart of that idea. Cultural relevance is the fourth thing. Great work needs to feel timely. It needs to feel current. It needs to feel locally resonant. When you see it and hear it, you need to go, I can totally relate with that, because there is a cultural underpinning to the idea. So juries at the pitches love ideas that reflect our Nigerianness, our African realities, our cultures, our own sense of humor. But that doesn't make it not to be globally acceptable, if you get my meaning. It still needs to be something that is recognized on the world stage. Boldness and originality, winning campaigns must take creative risk, right? Courage sometimes is what separates a good idea from a great idea. When you see something that is so courageous, so bold, and so original. In terms of the craft and execution, I'm going to be absolutely honest. The entry must look good, right? And I think Brenda alluded to it earlier. You must pay almost obsessive attention to the quality of your film. You must pay attention to the copywriting. You must pay attention to the art direction, the sound, the design, the entire user experience. Put yourself in the shoes of the jury and just kind of think, if this is somebody who's never heard of my agency, never seen my work before, how do I get them excited in the first few seconds? So it's not just the what, it's about how beautifully everything was brought together. And we see a lot of that in not just in picture, in many awards ceremonies across the world. The craft of the entry is very important. Then we've got integration and innovation. There has to be a flow, right? We've got to almost start to see how this works on digital and how this works in social, and how that Aldo extension increases the reach of the campaign. It needs to look all connected, right? Purpose and impact is also key. Juries will reward ideas that do more than just sell. It needs to create a kind of cultural impact. There needs to be a social behavior it's trying to drive or promote that is positive to society. So this doesn't mean that every idea needs to be purpose-led. And I know that there are brands like Unilever that has purpose at the heart of every single brand. Not every brand has that, but impact can definitely be used as a measure to spark the conversations and so on. The ninth thing is about results. Results matter. So beyond creativity, we need to see proof, real proof, right? The winning cases, need to link the idea to a very tangible result, be it the awareness lift, be it the sales improvement, be it engagement scores, perception shift, consideration uplift. There has to be real results that are tied to the objective of the brand. And last but not the least is passion. The passion with which you have put the case together, the way you have collaborated with other agency partners and the extended brand team to bring that to life, the people you reference in terms of how you brought everything together. Because great work happens when everyone wants it badly, right? Both clients, agency partners, everybody wants the best out of the work. So we've got those 10 key things. Now, how do we kind of look through the lens of those 10 things and say, okay, how does this score against these pillars? So what I'm going to do is look at a few works, and I've tried to put a bit of a indicator of how they scored high on these parameters and why they won the award. So we're going to start with a bronze award, walk towards some silver, walk into some gold awards, and then kind of close it out with the Grand Prix. And probably it brings everything together. So I've picked a few awards from the channel category. specifically because that was the jury I was heading, and Brenda was also on that jury as well. And this is from last year's Picture Award. This year, sorry. So I've selected this. It's not, I'm not saying this is the best bronze out of all the bronzes. It's just one of the bronze awards that we awarded. And this was from Origin. It was for the Osun Osogbo Festival. It won a bronze with the use of integrated media. It scored pretty high in my mind on cultural relevance because they embedded the Origin brand in what they call the deeply rooted campaign. They tied it in with the very heart of the Osun Osogbo Festival. They had 2 days of events. They brought in a popular Yoruba musician, I think it's Saheed Osupa. Some of you might know him. And they kind of made sure that they took that whole cultural relevance into the idea. And you can, once you see the brand, you see the idea, and you see the integration, it's clear to see that, okay, this is a perfect fit. It works for this brand, and everything ties together very nicely. And they did present the case very well. But ultimately, there are results that matter as well. Its salience went up. It tied to the originality of the brand. It really went into the heart of the brand ethos and how they want to push it. So, but, obviously, it didn't score very high on, things like collaboration, things like purpose, things like, and you can clearly see why it's not a silver, right? But it's definitely deserving of a bronze award. The next one I want to talk about is from a Kenyan agency, Denso Creative in Kenya. It was for a company called NCBC, and it got a silver for excellence in media execution, right? So from an execution standpoint, full marks. From a purpose and impact standpoint, full marks. While it may not have had very strong human truth and cultural relevance, but it did score very high on all the other parameters. And it was for the Hewa Safi project, where they turned an outdoor billboard into an air pollution filter. For those of you who are familiar with the technology, it's really just a way to take emissions out of the air, and the material used to build the billboard has a filtering capability to filter out dangerous particles. And they also had great results, right? They were very strong results that matter in terms of the amount of emissions they were able to take out. Now, obviously, it didn't have a lot of scale. I think it was largely one billboard in one location. So you might say, well, how much does that do? But you've got to recognize that it's a brilliant executional piece. And that is why it won the silver in excellence in media execution. It probably will not be the best piece for other categories, but within this category, it was an exceptional piece. And that's why I got a silver here. I've got another silver idea here, a very different type of silver award. But this was within the use of insights and strategy. I think it was an entry from Extreme Ideas in Nigeria. It was for a brand, ISEC. And for those of you who are familiar with ISEC, it's essentially an association, I think starts very much in universities, but all over the world. But this was particularly for ISEC in Nigeria. This, at the heart of it, had a very strong human truth. It spoke to the chaotic driving culture, particularly in cities like Lagos, and how drivers have gotten worse over time. And it's a problem that people know exists, but are doing little or nothing about. So ISEC took it upon themselves to do this. So there's a strong human truth. There is a lot of clarity in their idea. And the campaign was tagged Animals on the Road. What they tried to do was kind of encourage people not to be animals on the road, right? And they latched on the fact that, we've got very crazy driving styles, we're very abusive, there's a lot of road rage. So they latched on that idea, used it as the pivot for their campaign, and tried to, drive some awareness around it. It could have done with better results in terms of, did it shift culture? Did it change? Did it make that realization? Yes, it became a very strong trending topic, great impressions. They did have a game that had 1 million visits. So great results in that extent. But I think the challenge would be in terms of a culture shift and making people less chaotic. It would have been great if there was a way to measure that and show that they did create some level of awareness, even for a short bit of time. But great case, unusual strategy, but it did stand out from an executional piece as well. Okay, so let's look at 2 gold awards, and I'm trying to pick very different type of ideas so that you can see how varied the ideas and awards can be. So this is a gold award for the use of data. This was sent in by DXP, Digitex Plus, in Nigeria for Tolaram Colgate. And I think it was a very good idea of how they looked at data points from, sales of Colgate, the different variants, and also the fact that there was a lot of confusion around what Colgate brand does what, because they have so many variants out there. And rather than do an educational documentary and say, here's the Colgate Red, here's this, here's that, they gamified it. And they latched on the fact that people are more likely to get the education if it was put within a game framework. So they used that data point, they checked the data sets around how many people are playing games, which location, and so on, and used that to create a game they called Yanga Tiles, which essentially was you just matching different Colgate brands with kind of a matching game. Think of it as a matching game. But it's also an educational piece, because when you match it, then you can get the right correlation between what brand does what brand colors, the product packs, and so on and so forth. So they took what could have been a very boring educational piece and made it a game and made it more exciting, right? And because they had the data to back it, they were successful in implementing this campaign. So I think that was a brilliant way for them to do it. And of course, we've got to give kudos to the tech that goes behind creating this game, creating the leaderboard, and also making sure that the game is, well designed and created. So that was this award, the gamification, the use of data, driving that human truth through. Another gold idea is from Dentsu Red Star. This was brought in from South African Dentsu agency for the brand Heineken, and it was gold for excellence in media execution. So this was another good and brilliant case on where the idea was extremely clear. We were impressed with the nature of the integration and innovation. It was called the Heineken Barber Shop, and the idea was latched on a simple thing, a simple truth about football culture, and that's hairstyles. For those of you who still have hair, and that's hairstyles. It's a known fact that footballers have some of the craziest hairdos. It's kind of their thing, right? It's the look and feel of it. So they took this entire hairstyle idea and built a barber shop. And it's a play on words there. Bar, tying that with beer, drinking. So a barber shop. So it's also a bar in terms of come have a drink, but also have a haircut. And you could, pick any of the iconic stylish haircuts, but also riding on the fact that Heineken is a UEFA Champions League sponsor. So everything just fits in so nicely. It's the football, it's the bar for drinking, it's a barber shop with football hairstyles, and how they integrated music with viewing centers, with social experiences, and all that excitement put together. And they did have very strong results in terms of the viewership and followership of this campaign. So brilliant execution from Heineken or from Dentsu Red Star on this particular campaign. So I wanted to wrap it up with the Grand Prix winner. And just a bit of disclosure, this actually was from my agency, PhD Nigeria, and I wasn't part of selecting the Grand Prix, by the way. The way this awards work is that if you are a submitting agency, you are not part of the voting process. So I have to leave the room, literally leave the room, and allow the voting process go on. But this was chosen as the Grand Prix winner. And I think one of the reasons it was chosen as the winner is because it kind of ticked all the boxes. It won the Grand Prix from overall category. It did win, I think, gold within the media execution, but Grand Prix from a use of media standpoint. The idea was extremely clear. I think the boldness and originality stood out the most. It was culturally relevant in the sense that it was tied in with what we now call and know as Dirty December. It took a simple, honest outdoor idea and built an outdoor into an experience, which is not something you see very often. There was a lot of integration, events, activations, bringing. It was so huge that people probably thought it was a club, but this was really an outdoor idea that we kind of blew up to become something else. It took months to put together. There is a lot of collaboration that had to happen with every single agency partners and builders and so on, including the clients that had to import certain things to make sure we had things at standard. But most importantly, the results spoke for themselves. There were millions of online reach. But at the end of the day, the truth is we need to sell drinks. It's the core business that Pernod Ricard is in. They sell drinks. And we were able to not just sell the drinks, but sell out everything we brought into that venue. And to a point, and as you would expect, we were even selling at club prices, not retail. So we sold so much within that location that we were starting to look for ways to extend it into subsequent years. So I think it was a brilliant case to show that, with even basic things like out of home, you can create huge experiences, and that return on experience can become a return on investment. And this is a perfect showcase of that. So those are really the key things I wanted to talk through. And these 10 things, 10 key pillars, kind of sum up. I think it's a neat and tidy way to remember. If you tick most of these boxes, you probably have a winner on your hand. And if you are not able to tick a lot of these boxes, and again, maybe I should be clear, it's not just ticking them for the sake of it. It's got to make sense. The reality is that you may not be able to tick all, but you do need to tick most. And then you will have definitely a winner in front of you. So yeah, let's go win. Thanks for listening. I'm happy to take any questions if you have it.